The day I first opened my eyes to this world, I was not welcomed with the love or joy that every child deserves, but rather with the silent weight of rejection. My existence was marked not by celebration but by the heavy sighs of those who had expected something else, something different, a boy. In their eyes, my being a girl meant limitation, burden, and disappointment. They did not see me as a gift, as a fragile soul who only wanted warmth, but as an unwanted reality they never wished to accept. From the very beginning, the world outside did not make it easier. In many ways, society mirrored the rejection that my parents had shown me. Whispers, glances, and judgments reminded me constantly of the way I had been discarded. I carried the invisible label of being unwanted, and people treated me as though I was defined by it. In their eyes, a girl abandoned by her parents could not possibly carry worth, could not possibly rise above that label. And so I lived with the heavy silence of my parents' absence, the echo of their decision pressing down on me like a weight I could not shake off. They had not only abandoned me physically, they had left me emotionally bankrupt, deprived of the foundation of love that gives a child strength. But in the quiet moments, beyond all the anger and grief, there was also a strange kind of resilience growing within me. Being abandoned stripped me of the illusion that love would be given freely, and so I learned to create it within myself. I learned to fight for every small moment of worth, to prove that I was more than the decision they had made. Every tear, every scar, every lonely night shaped me into someone who could not be easily broken. Their abandonment had tried to define me, but slowly, I began to understand that it was also giving me the strength to define myself. The image of my parents walking away stayed with me like a ghost, haunting every milestone of my childhood. Birthdays passed without their voices, achievements without their applause, struggles. The pain of rejection is not something that arrives all at once. It seeps into you slowly, moment by moment, until it becomes part of your skin, part of your breath, part of your very existence. For me, rejection was not a single event but a continuous reality, stretching from the very moment I entered this world. It was in the absence of my parents' arms, in the way their eyes refused to look at me with love, in the silence that followed every question of why I was not enough. The pain was not just about being left behind, it was about knowing that the people who should have cherished me the most chose to see me as disposable, unworthy of their care. Each time I thought about it, the wound deepened, carving itself into the core of who I was, making me question not only my worth but the very meaning of love. There is a particular kind of cruelty in being unwanted. The cruelty of rejection is that it does not stop with the act itself. It echoes, over and over, in every new encounter, in every new relationship. I could not look at a family laughing together without feeling the sting of what I had lost. I could not hear the word daughter without remembering how mine was not a role worth keeping. Even the smallest gestures of love from others would sometimes hurt, because they reminded me of the love I had been denied. The pain was not simply emotional, it was physical, too, a weight pressing down on my chest, an ache that lived in my bones, a heaviness that no one else could see. I often wondered what was wrong with me. Was I too weak, too fragile, too small, too unworthy? The rejection made me believe that my very existence was flawed. There were moments when the pain was so overwhelming that it felt like drowning. Every memory of being unwanted pulled me deeper, suffocating me with the weight of my own doubts. I would lie awake at night, staring into the dark, wondering what it would feel like to be embraced without question, to be told that I mattered, to hear someone say they were proud of me. But those words never came from the people I needed them from, and so I created them in my imagination, clinging to the fragments of dreams that offered temporary comfort. The pain of rejection became both my cage and my fuel, trapping me in sorrow but also forcing me to dream of something. The pain of rejection is like an echo, it never fully disappears, it just grows quieter with time, until something stirs it again. A word, a gesture, a memory, and suddenly it returns, sharp as ever, reminding you of all the times you were told, in action if not in words, that there is a cruelty in survival that many do not understand. It is not about a single act of strength or bravery but about the endless repetition of choices you cannot escape. To survive is to wake each day and know that the struggle has not ended, that you must face it again, and again, and again. I remember looking at the world around me with a sense of constant vigilance, always alert. The world, however, did not make it easy. Doors closed in my face, opportunities slipped away, and people often judged me before I even had a chance to prove myself. I was reminded again and again that society was not kind to those who came. Yet, even in the darkest corners of struggle, there were sparks of strength that began to form. Survival forced me to discover resilience I never knew I had. Every time I faced hunger, I learned how to endure. Every time the loneliness of survival etched itself deeply into my soul. There were nights when I stared at the sky, searching for answers in the stars, wondering if anyone anywhere cared about the girl who had been left behind. Rising to success was not a sudden transformation, not a moment where everything changed overnight, but rather a slow, painful climb built on years of rejection, survival, and resilience. It began in silence, in the quiet decision deep within me that I would not remain broken, that I would not let my parents abandon me. Along the way, I discovered that success was not just about proving others wrong, it was about proving myself right. It was about showing the child I once was that her pain had not been for nothing, that her tears had been transformed into strength, that her loneliness. Rising to success was never about the material rewards, though they came in time. It was about dignity, about reclaiming the worth that had been denied to me, about standing tall in a world that had once told me to bow my head. It was about rewriting the story of my life, transforming it from one of rejection and the presence of money has a way of reshaping people's memories. Suddenly, they remembered the bond of blood that had been meaningless when I was a helpless child. Suddenly, they spoke of family ties. Turning betrayal into justice was not a decision born out of anger alone, but out of the years I had carried the scars of abandonment, rejection, and struggle. The betrayal of my parents turning betrayal into justice also meant reclaiming my own voice. For so long, I had been silent, unable to question, unable to demand, unable to resist. But now, I could stand tall and say the words that had burned inside me for years. I could confront them with the truth of their choices, remind them of the daughter they had abandoned, the pain they had inflicted, and the strength I had built in their absence. Speaking my truth was an act of justice in itself, a declaration that their betrayal had not destroyed me, but had instead created someone stronger, someone who could hold them accountable. Justice also meant protecting what was mine. My fortune, my success.